some dare call it conspiracy, with Brent Lee and Neil Sanders. This is Pizzagate, episode 4, with our guest, Joel Hill, from the Conditional Release Program podcast.
James Alefantis, as we've mentioned before, is the gentleman that owns Comet Ping Pong. He's been noted as one of the 50 most powerful people in Washington. And this is due to his connections to David Brock of Media Matters and his connection to the Podestas. Also, he's very, very active on the Democratic fundraising circuit and has used Comet Ping Pong numerous times for events where they're raising money for Hillary Clinton or Obama or whoever the Democratic candidate is at the time. But people have pointed out certain strangeness, say, on his Instagram. The first thing that people pointed out was that he had a picture as his profile picture of the Greek latterly god and formerly lover of the Roman Emperor Hadrian, Antinous. Now, Antinous was, again, he was the lover of Emperor Hadrian, and he's sort of considered to be one of the sort of depictions of young, beautiful men. His sort of, the idea of him has been adopted by numerous people. Some have actually sort of adopted him as a gay icon. Some have actually seen him as an icon of pederasty, which is having sex with young boys, because of the age difference between Hadrian and Antinous. Now, you've got to appreciate at the time as well, like, it was perfectly normal for men to have homosexual relationships with younger boys. This is not an uncommon thing in ancient Greece and ancient Rome and various other ancient, civilizations. It's not to say it's right or to say that it's wrong or either way, but this is where this association comes from.
Yeah, absolutely. See, our societal standards says it's wrong, but their societal standards, 3,000 years ago, said it was fine.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's entirely possible that attitudes have changed in that time.
Yeah,
right. So
in some circles,
yeah, in some circles.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't take that as too much. But so when he died, basically, Antinous was declared a god by Hadrian. And actually, there was a degree of a cult that came up off the back of it. And I think there was a lot of homosexual sex that was involved in this cult. So again, people have noted the connection to Antinous and said, this is suspicious. He also has a picture of his friend holding a little girl. And this little girl's got beads around her neck, which some might associate with, getting girls topless at Mardi Gras.
Mardi Gras?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it has the hashtag chicken lover. Now, some people have pointed out that chicken lover is an expression of what a chicken hawk does. A chicken hawk is a man who preys on young boys. And so a chicken lover has been used as a description of an elderly homosexual man who preys on young boys. And they've got hashtag chicken lover next to this picture of his friend holding a small child. Also, there's a picture of the same child, this little girl, and she's got her hands taped to a ping pong table. And we've all seen this picture. She's there and she's got both hands outstretched in front of her, and she's taped to this table. Potentially one of the most damning things is there's a picture of James Alefantis in a T-shirt that says, I heart l'enfant, Lenfants, which people have interpreted as I love infants or I love children in French. Yeah. So people have pointed out that is perhaps not the most judicious thing to be wandering around wearing and have demanded an explanation for it. And he also posted a really creepy picture of an empty room with the hashtag murder. And again, people think that this is very, very strange.
It is.
If you're coming at it from reading all of those emails and all the other things that we've talked about before, it's starting to build a very, very sinister picture.
Potentially, yeah. Other pictures on his Instagram include Michelle Obama playing ping pong, his niece drinking a carton of milk, his niece standing in a shopping basket, a picture of a baby eating pizza, a sign that says boom, boom room, and boom, boom room is a potential reference to an orgy, a picture of an eye of a dead pig, and obviously that's the eye of Providence, a girl in a yellow dress running on a lawn. There's another picture of a toddler. There's a picture of Marina Abramovich. There's a picture of Barack Obama playing ping pong. There's a man stood outside comic with the caption, "Long Dong Pizza." There's a picture of a doll that's titled German Baby, and it has a costing tag of $1,200. There's two people looking at a hole in Comet's floor, which some have speculated that this is where the dungeon is. There's a letter of thanks to James Alefantis from Hillary Clinton. There's a beauty pageant child with the caption, "I want my pizza." There's a picture of Kate Moss topless, and then there's a picture of his friend wearing a panda mask with the hashtag #CumPanda. Which, yeah.
I mean, panda eyes.
Well, this is the thing. Some people have gone so far as to suggest this concept of panda eyes, which is the idea that you get black eye hemorrhages in children if they've been sodomized. Whether this is true or not, I've got absolutely no idea, but this is the trope, and so the connection to pandas suddenly becomes slightly more curious because of that. That wasn't all that was on Instagram. There was also the Instagram of Josh Ryan Vogelsong. Josh Ryan Vogelsong is an employee who works at Comet Ping Pong, and he had homosexual pizza-related pics on his Instagram. One is two men obviously licking a large penis, but this penis has been covered by a slice of pizza, like in a sort of Photoshop way. So it looks like they're actually eating pizza, but it's clearly like taken from a porn photo. There's two men engaged in a 69 position using a massive slice of pizza as like a bed. There's lots of pictures of pizza covering up the genitals of like hot guys. And then there's one picture of a penis that appears to be ejaculating pizza slices. But also someone else, Miss Summercamp, she works there as well, or previously worked there. She posted a picture of a bearded man who's wearing full makeup, and he has jewelry on, including like a diamond sort of necklace and bracelets and stuff like that. And he's covered in blood. And he's sort of lying on the floor with his hands, his chin cocked on his hands in a sort of coquettish way. So obviously mixing sort of like sexual imagery, homosexual imagery, and blood and death in what can only be described as potentially satanic. So, you know, there's that to be concerned about. And the final thing that 4chan had noted was Tony Podesta, who is the brother of John Podesta. He likes him some very strange art. And this is something that people really don't like. He runs the Podesta Group, which is a lobbying firm. Now, some of the art that he owns is by a lady called Biljana Đurđević, and she is an artist that paints children in sort of dangerous and unusual positions. The ones that people have seen are these very, very pale children, either tied up on the wall of a swimming pool or looking sort of a bit sort of disheveled and worse for wear. And he apparently has 3 pictures by this artist, and people think that that's disturbing. Like a work as basically deals with what she calls societal problems, but it's often disturbing or has children in it. The one that she's done has got like Santa Claus dead on a table and stuff like that. So she likes to shock. Podesta has one that's a group of children lying in a circle in a pool with leaves around them. And he's got one of 2 girls lying in the long grass and one of a girl in a red skirt who sat on a bar stool with a tile pattern behind her. He also owns some artwork by a lady called Maria Marshall. Now, she makes composite images of her own children. So there's 2 very famous ones that you might have seen. One is of her young son smoking a cigarette, and then the other one is of her young son looking all dirty, and there's a rat sat on his head. So again, slightly disturbing imagery concerning children in sort of difficult positions. He also owns a piece of artwork called The Arch of Hysteria. Now, this is a gold sort of reproduction of a body, and the body is arched over so that the shins are flat on the floor, is arched up, and then his pelvis falls back on itself, and then his arms fall under one another. And there's 2 things, really. One, nobody's pointed this out, but if you squint, it looks a little bit like the Boy Lover logo, because it's a spiral going in on itself. But the thing that most people have pointed out is that it's almost identical to this Polaroid that was taken of one of Jeffrey Dahmer's victims, who was beheaded and then left on a bed whilst he took Polaroids of it. And it does. It looks like this sort of headless corpse sort of arching back on itself.
Jesus.
Yeah, people think that is strange. It was made by a woman called Louise Bourgeois. So, it's strange. They also point out that he's friends with Marina Abramovich, and as we've previously talked about, Marina Abramovich, according to Paul Joseph Watson, is involved in all sorts of Crowleyan Satanism. Now, he has pictures of naked children. Now, this is true. He owns a couple of Katie Grannons. Katie Grannon is an artist that takes naked photos of children in their homes in various sort of artistic poses, but they do have naked children. And according to an article that was in the Washington Post, this was Tony Podesta's wife. He says, in one of our spare bedrooms, we have these Katie Grannon pictures, and she found it quite amusing that people are shocked. They'll go into there and just happen to see these, what look like very scandalous pictures of naked children. And to be honest, she says she finds that rather amusing. He also loaned a picture, which is called An Old Friend for Dinner. And this is actually in John Podesta's office, and it shows two men with a plate and cutlery, and they're leaning over what seems to be the dead body of a third man, and basically looks like it's sort of cannibalistically themed. Now, he's loaned this to his brother John, and John had this in his office, and it's been photographed, stood next to it several times. So because of all of these strange pieces of artwork, people tend to be rather suspicious of Tony Podesta. And again, it's starting to build a larger picture of something sinister happening.
It's definitely building a picture of these people are very strange.
Yeah.
They're not your usual normal people, I guess. We don't, not everyone,
has pictures of naked children.
Well, I wasn't going to say that, but not everyone, present company excluded, Neil, has pictures of cannibalism.
No, I mean, I have obviously in my kitchen, but but it's all rather tasteful.
Nice pun.
Well, I've got a picture. Right, there's a book called A Modest Proposal by Jonathan Swift, and in it he suggests that the Irish famine could be solved by the Irish eating their own children. And it's one of the sort of first and greatest bits of satire. It's an appalling suggestion. But if you're appalled by the suggestion that they should eat their own children, surely you should be appalled by the fact that they're starving to death.
Yes.
And so I have a large reprint of certain pages from A Modest Proposal, which actually give the recipe of how to cook a baby. But that's just my particular strange sense of humour. So I wouldn't take that seriously if I was you.
But that's what art is. You've got this situation where people have these artworks on their walls, and the idea these conspiracy theorists have is that everyone should have a monoculture. We should all adhere to the same things. In no way, shape, or form do I think the idea of a bunch of children tied to a fucking pool is something that I find aesthetically pleasing. But I also find other things darkly pleasing aesthetically, which is kind of amusing.
Yes.
I'm not going to sit here and say this is okay, but fuck, man, it is hard for me as just a person of general, vaguely normal norms here to say, yeah, cool, kids in a pool, nothing wrong with that. If I have something that's cannibal related in my kitchen, it's probably because I like weird metal.
Yes.
And that's cool.
Well, yeah, I mean, I do.
Oh, so do I. But where do we get the connection between, sort of weird, I just think that's a desensitization issue where these people are so fucked in the head, they have to have weird things that conjure some sort of emotion on their walls because they're otherwise dead inside.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't feel it. I can't relate to it. Whereas I do love weird references to cannibalism in strange socio-political references because, I mean, yeah, that's cool. That's niche.
Exactly. But I'll tell you, somebody who doesn't find this amusing, Owen Schroyer. Owen Schroyer was not a happy bunny. Now, this is interesting because in order to find this particular episode, which came out on November the 7th, so the day before the election, okay, I had to go to Knowledge Fight because for whatever reason, InfoWars has scrubbed the majority of the references it makes to Pizzagate from the internet.
Interesting.
Who can say why?
Really?
Yeah, who can say?
Legal threats.
Well, potentially. Like, on November the 7th, Owen Schroyer says,
I'm going to do this in the brainwashed proper fashion, okay? Well, folks, we have found some really damning evidence of some pictures.
Alleged.
And we've had some alleged pictures. We have some strange artwork from Tony Podesta. We have some Satanists who invite the Podestas to a cultic dinner. It appears, though, we have some symbolism being used here with pizza and cheese, and it may be linked to child pedophilia. It does look as though David Brock has a connection with this pizza place owner and that the Obamas are well aware of it.
Now, they then take a call from somebody who claims to know a former employee of Comet Ping Pong.
There's a gentleman by the name of Paul Town that was actually convicted. He worked there at Comet Pizza for about a year and a half, and he was convicted for pedophilia.
And this bloke has phoned up from the, he says, we've been looking into this on R the Donald. So he's a Reddit user. And he says, we've been going through different employee references online, and we've found this guy. Now, Owen Schroyer, he doesn't ask where he got this information from or if there's any validity to it. What Owen Schroyer says is,
well, I just want to give you a round of applause because this is the type of effort it takes from we the people, folks. Okay?
Now, that might seem a little bit jumping the gun, maybe. Perhaps Owen Schroyer might have, I'd have perhaps done a bit more due diligence. But, at least that's where he stops it. He doesn't go any further than that. Oh, no, wait, no, hang on. No, he does.
Oh, really?
Much further.
Of course he does.
He says,
has the New York Police Department raided this place? Let me ask you that. Has the FBI raided this place? Has anyone investigated Comet Pizza? Is there anybody planning on investigating Comet Pizza? Does anybody even know what Comet Pizza is? So I call on the American people. Don't do anything illegal. Don't break any laws. Just go there tomorrow and start asking questions. Be like, hey, you know what? This is a place in my neighborhood. I like getting pizza here. But all of a sudden, I'm seeing this weird stuff going on. I'm not sure if I want to be buying pizza here anymore. Can you guys stand up for yourselves? What's your relation to David Brock? Do you know the Podestas? Why do we have these emails? Why is that logo across the street? What's going on at Comet Pizza?
Oh.
So some might see that as Owen Schroyer, encouraging people to go down to this pizza shop and harass them in order to investigate this sort of rather thin concept that's all over the internet.
Incitement here. Yeah.
Thank God he didn't say anything even more damning. Oh, no, wait, hang on. What he then said was,
this is how you get involved in this fight. This is how you change the world. Think about that. Think about you. You're sitting at your couch. It's a Monday night. It's 1 o'clock here, Central Time. You're sitting on your couch. You're watching InfoWars. Maybe you're enjoying, some popcorn or something, some chocolate. You're just sitting down. Well, maybe tomorrow you go to Comet Pizza and you capture video footage that changes the world. Okay? That is how you make an impact, folks. You get off your duff. You go out. You make some action happen. You look for some answers.
Okay.
He's not in jail, which is amazing. I love that.
That's just because they scrubbed the episode.
He scrubbed the episodes. I had to really look to find that particular episode. Like, there's about 5-6 episodes where they talk about Pizzagate, and a surprisingly few of them still exist on the internet because for whatever reason.
Oh yeah.
But isn't it interesting that Sandy Hook? It was Owen Schroyer that initially sort of said the inflammatory thing, almost as if, I don't know, maybe InfoWars encourages this sort of environment where people are trying to come out with the wackiest crap that they can to, I don't know, appease and impress Alex Jones. That'd be pure speculation, obviously, but
pure speculation.
Yeah, complete. But anyway, That's Owen Schroyer adding his opinion.
I must say, I'm getting pretty pilled from this podcast. I mean, I'm sorry, but like, I tried to listen to some good Pizzagate podcasts, and they're all really shit. This one is very convincing. I mean, there's some pretty dodgy shit going on here.
There certainly is.
It's impressive. It's really good. So, like, I'm definitely trying to go along with the narrative of like this being the, holy shit, blah blah. But at the same time, I'm also like, there's a lot of stuff I don't know here, which is like pretty good. Like, wow, like if I was in the sphere,
yeah,
there's all obviously ways you can sort of explain it off, but you've dug up a lot more than a lot of the pilled people I was listening to did.
Oh, cool. Good.
By miles.
We're not quite finished
and
yet,
good.
too. So
no, it's fine. This is great. I'm fascinated.
Oh, cool. Good.
But it's just like, it's more, it's way more detailed in ways that are important than anything. As I said, I didn't manage to get through any of these things, but it's mostly because they were waffling about bullshit the whole time. This is really good. This is fucking great. And it's really compelling.
Thank you. Right. Okay. Let's crack on then. So, November the 8th, Donald Trump is elected president. Now, 6 days later, bizarrely, it then goes a bit quiet because, if one was suspicious, you could say, well, everyone was then sort of reeling from the fact that Donald Trump had been made president and that nothing they predicted had happened.
Shitting themselves.
Yeah, totally. But what was bizarre was, on November the 16th, this stories about Pizzagate started appearing en masse in newspapers in Turkey. Now, this was very, very strange because the day before that, on the 15th, there was a coup against Erdogan. And this was potentially seen as some people said that this had the backing of American forces. Now, if you also remember, Michael Flynn was floating around with Erdogan and doing some very, very strange stuff that eventually got him sort of ousted. But basically, what had happened really was that Erdogan had he'd given an amnesty to certain child abusers earlier in the year, and he was starting to get flack from this. So the suggestion is that the story was pushed big in Turkey. It really is just a sort of protection of himself. It wasn't indicative that this was actually a real story or that they took it seriously, more that basically, look over here at this terrible sex scandal and ignore this terrible sex scandal. At the same day, though, November the 16th, Jack Pacific of fame to himself, I suppose, Jack Pacific decided that he wanted to take Owen Schroyer's advice. He wanted to be the change that he wanted to see in the world, and he drove over to Comet Ping Pong and Besta, and he live streams on Periscope with some guy called George McIntyre. Oh, I don't know who he is, but they seem to be quite friendly. And he starts off this thing by saying, I decided that I wanted to go and get some pizza. And he clarifies how dangerous this situation is. He says, I don't think this is one where I'm going to need bailing out. If I screw this up, I don't know what's going to happen to me. So I just watched the Comet Pizza video, and I did a rosary to prepare for this. So he's taking it seriously. He's protecting himself with the armor of God.
Well, he thinks there's satanic forces at work here.
Well, absolutely. And he walks up, and what's bizarre is his friend George he's got typed 9-1 typed into his mobile phone, ready to drop the other one if it all goes hairy, basically.
That's very funny.
They also go down to Besta Pizza, which is 3 doors down, and they show the spiral pyramid, the boy lovers sign, and it seems to match the FBI document. And he points his out, he goes, remember the symbol on the FBI list? This is the symbol at Besta Pizza. And then tells the plan. He says, what we're going to do is that we're going to infiltrate Comet Pizza. But this is not before they have a bit of a think about it, because they worry that because there was a supermoon about 2 days ago, which is part of satanic rituals, that, and I quote, their powers could now be at their highest.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
No, let me hear him out. He's also concerned that the closeness to Halloween, which is only 2 weeks in the future, is also important because, and I quote, that's also a time when the veil is permeable between the spirit realms, so they'll have the ability to move between one and the other.
I'm so glad I heard him out. I feel like I should have just given them a second. Now it's all clear.
You see, when you explain it,
Exactly. Now it makes sense. I was getting pilled before, and then you interrupted it with this bullshit.
well, I mean, like he's concerned about the permeability of the spirit realm. Like he says, what do you think could happen to us going in here? And his mate says, well, I don't think we're coming out. And Pacific says, well, is death the worst thing that could happen? And his mate goes, well, we're talking about spirit cooking, crazy shit punishment. And Pacific then starts to sound worried. It's like, well, do you think they're going to spirit cook us? And they go into the restaurant. They finally sort of build up the courage, and they go into the restaurant, and they ask to go to the back of the building. And they walk straight to the back, past a load of families, and there's a couple of ping pong tables, and there's a stage, and then there's a curtain at the back right. And he says that a lot of people are going in that back room, and he notices staff going into the back room of this building. And he also points out that there's a face on the wall, a demonic face, like a satanic face. He also points out that it's actually quite suspicious that they serve Chianti, because Chianti is the favourite drink of Hannibal Lecter. But
oh, nice.
Yeah, they might be getting a bit paranoid. He goes off and has a wander around and finds the toilets, and the toilets are kind of hidden behind this panel that you have to push the wall to get them to open. And he looks really, really scared throughout the whole thing. He also looks a little bit drunk, but I think he might just look like that. They start to get paranoid because one of the waiters it goes on his mobile phone and goes into the back room, and so he starts to think that they might. He says, "I think we're burned. I think we're found out." And the waiter comes over to them and he starts to ask them, "Excuse me, why are you live streaming?" But then he just thinks better of it. Thinks doesn't matter, whatever. Takes their order and cracks off. And that's where part 1 ends. Part 2 starts with the staff members asking them to leave the restaurant because they've been filming secretly. And there's a cop there, and the cop is explaining that the staff have had death threats and loads of weirdos are hanging around proliferating this stupid Pizzagate theory, and that they have been asked to leave. And the police have actually, they didn't notice this before, but the police have, they've got a permanent, they're set up outside because of this very thing.
Oh, fuck. Really?
Yeah, there's 2 police officers in a car outside, and they'd not noticed them before they went in. So this is why the police arrived so very, very quickly, because the staff have been getting death threats, essentially.
Yeah, of course. Or I always thought the cops really didn't care too much, and that was a really big thing. But they had actually a guard. Interesting.
Yeah. Now, Pacific starts complaining. He says, "Wow, thrown out of Comet Pizza for periscoping." And he points out that everyone was acting weird. Everyone was really on edge. The owner, he said to me, "You are feeding an alt-right conspiracy." And he says, I'm not trolling at all. What's interesting is he spent the entire footage flashing white power symbols, and he does it at least twice in the restaurant, which is probably what got him caught, aside from the fact that they wander in holding up their phone, acting so suspicious.
This whole thing seems very inspired by Dark Secrets inside Bohemian Grove.
Very much so.
But he didn't get a camera in the pager.
No.
He's supposed to hide it like Alex did.
Yeah, and not be weird about it.
Here's what's interesting, because then they have to start the video again because something happened to his periscope, and it sort of went down. So he starts to think that they might be hacked. And then he figures it out. It's like, we've just got thrown out for filming in the restaurant. Someone must have tipped them off. And it's like, I'm pretty sure they just saw you filming.
Yeah.
But he imagines that what they've done is they've been watching his Twitter feed, and because he's mentioned the restaurant, that they've been aware and spotted him coming before he arrives. Nothing to do with him wandering in there, holding up his phone like a camera, or loudly saying, "I want to get into the back room," or just acting really weird and suspicious. It's nothing to do with that. And he clarifies. He says, "They've got eyes on me. They've got eyes on anyone going into Comet Pizza. They've got eyes on everyone," which is, terrifying. And he appeals. He says, we need to get a proper journalist on this. We need to get somebody with integrity, somebody who's got a track record of impeccable accuracy. But then he abandons that and decides that what we need to do is get James O'Keefe down here of Project Veritas. And he begs James O'Keefe to come down with hidden cameras to secretly film ping pong. That's what he says. And he clarifies his reasons why. He says, well, because we saw a secret back room. People were going in and out of there. There was music. There were kids, little kids. And he goes, yeah, there were kids, actually. This is a bar, and this is 9 o'clock at night. Since when are kids allowed at a bar? And his friend goes, it's weird. He also points out, goes, there's so much going on. The periscope is acting possessed. There's a back room back there. The bathroom doors were like these weird hidden doors. You couldn't see them. You could see that there were some couches and chairs in the back room. It's behind the little black curtain. If you could see around it a little bit, it looked like there were candles because you could see a flickering light.
Ooh, candles are bad.
Well, candles are always bad.
Candles are always bad.
He says the threat level here is so much higher than I thought it would be. The stuff that is going on is much, much worse than I thought it would be. We're dealing with some high-level stuff here, guys. There are people here that have a lot of interests, a lot of money, so they have a big secret and they're trying to hide a big secret and they're trying to hide under wraps because it could potentially blow the lid on Hillary Clinton or John Podesta and Tony Podesta. Honestly, I was not sold on the Comet Pizza theory before this. George sent me the video and I was like, I don't know. I was not sold on the Comet Pizza thing. But the kids at the back room and the fact that this guy was acting real squirrely, the fact that they were straight onto me, I've never seen the police react so fast. Then he clarifies, he says, we saw a secret room in the very far back of the place and we saw little kids going in and out and then they disappeared. But they're determined not to leave completely empty-handed, so they go to Besta Pizza, which is just down the road. And there's several things that they think are suspicious. One, they think that the building seems a lot smaller inside than it looks from the outside, so there's obviously a hidden room off to the back. There's no door, but there is, he says, that's weird, because there's a window at the back of the pizza place, and that should be fogged up. They also noticed that one of the lads who works in the place is constantly texting, which is apparently strange. And they notice a photograph, and all it is, it's a shack. It looks like it's in somewhere like India or Africa or some very, very rural place. And this shack has got another shack built on top of it with a ladder going up to it, and it's very poorly built, and it has a motif on the bottom that says, if you want to live upstairs, go for it, live your dream. And they think that this is in some way suspicious. It's obviously very, very suspicious.
It's got that Thalemite overtones of do what thou wilt.
Well, a little bit, yeah. So with that in mind, they then hightail it and never return to the satanic pizza parlor.
Fucking cowards. I'm telling you, that was the worst investigative journalism I've ever heard in my life.
It's not brilliant, was it, if we're honest?
And that is a wrap for now. Join us next week as we continue down the Pizzagate rabbit hole. You can gain access to this entire series on day one of release by joining our Patreon for only $5 a month. Included in this package are 4 of Neil's books, my entire discography, early access to episodes, Patreon-only episodes, and a PDF of Headache Comics 4, courtesy of Nicholas C. Gray. You can also support us by subscribing, sharing, liking, or leaving a review wherever you are listening to us. And please follow us on Twitter @SomeDarePodcast. Thank you for listening.